Okay, coming back to personal questions and getting people to know who you are. And I think this episode should really, excuse me, should be about who is Alex, right? Because we know about your career, your business life, how you know the law. You've literally learned the law. You're all those things, right? But we don't really know who you are. And I think it's kind of fun to ask some personal questions, which I love. Like we did not rehearse this. This is so like natural. And
Improv, totally.
yeah, and when you were talking about like Harry Potter and wizards last time and different things like that, I was like, ooh, that's like a snippet of who you are, right? Because like there's a whole underground world of Harry Potter out
Right.
there. So funny. I actually was interviewing somebody else yesterday, and she also made a lot of Harry Potter references. And I was like, see, there's a whole friend group out there just because we all love Harry Potter.
We should do Harry Potter networking event.
Yeah. Trivia, right? Like I need to brush up on my Harry Potter trivia, but she made a reference to it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Like I can totally understand what you're saying because we speak like the same language. So for your clients and for people to know like and trust you, it's important that they like get to know who you are. And so one of the questions is, what's a personal risk you're glad you took? Which is a hard question. I know it's like not an easy one that like you want to start with an easier one?
I mean, the biggest risk I mean, is the opening my firm is itself. The risk is a financial risk because as a solo attorney, I am the business owner. I have to keep track of all the finances and figure out how to get myself known to clients, and of course do the legal work, the paralegal, the attorney work. So you wear many hats, and it's a financial uncertainty. So that's in itself a risk.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, it's a personal risk, but it's also like it is a personal risk. It's also a family risk. I mean, you have three kids and a wife and a family, and you're having everybody bet on this whole thing. It's not just you.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that my wife is so supportive and helpful. Without her, nothing would happen and it all fall apart. But that's 100% true. And there's a lot of responsibility. There's so much responsibility because when you work for a firm, you have responsibilities, but there's a partner you can fall back on. Oh, something's there's trouble. Client is upset. Let's get a case manager to help. Oh, there's an issue. Let's go to the partner, ask what to do it, and then you kind of go home and there's like no homework. You're like, well, or if there is a problem, ultimately it's not fully your responsibility. But here, I'm responsible for everything. I'm responsible for the well-being of each and every client that I have, and that's a lot. That is every day. I think about my clients every day. I go to sleep thinking about my clients. I dream about my clients.
Yeah. No, because you're an extension of everybody's an extension of you, right? Like you want to make sure your clients have the best experience because it's you're taking them under your wing. It's almost like children, right? Like you're like, I want to make sure my child is taken care of, like
Yes.
family members. And I know you don't look at your clients as like another number. You're looking at them as like, this is somebody I really care for.
Absolutely not. And one of the biggest issues in Florida laws pertains to car accidents is that Florida is one of the only states in the country that allows drivers to drive without bodily injury insurance that protects you, that gives financial security in case you're at fault and you injure someone. There will be insurance. Florida lets you drive with zero of that. And what results is that oftentimes, because it's so hard to personally sue, it's very rare that an attorney and a client make a decision to personally sue someone outside of the injury limits because it's just so hard to recover. Florida has strong asset protection laws. There's homestead exemption. You can't take someone's house. So why am I saying all this? Oftentimes, because of this law, because there's no coverage and people don't buy something known as uninsured motorists to protect themselves, there's no case because there's no insurance coverage that would cover somebody's injuries. And I end up having to write what's known as a drop letter to my clients saying, listen, I believe there's merit in the case. We investigated, we tried helping you, but because there's no insurance, I don't see how I can help you further. And that's a standard, it's a very standard letter. Attorneys write, like all over the states, but in Florida, especially with this frequent issue, that's what makes Florida more difficult in a sense. But every time I have to compose one of these quote unquote standard letters, like my heart breaks every time. I'm like, no, I have to, I mean, and client knows the client's not going to owe me any money. It's not like there's any risk. But the fact that I have to drop somebody, as routine as it may seem for Florida, for me, it's hard every single time. It's just not easy to do that. Because like you said, every client is like a child, and every time I have to drop somebody, even though it's for valid reasons and I'm doing the right thing, part of me feels like I failed that client, and it hurts.
Yeah, even though it's nothing you did, it's just because of how the insurance is working out in Florida, like how like how it what our options are and their education, and there's no education for insurance.
Not enough, definitely not enough people.
Yes, not enough. You're right. There is education. I mean, there are attorneys that are trying to educate, but you trust your insurance agent, right? You call up your insurance agent, and you're like, this is what I need. And they're not going to necessarily try to sell you the best insurance because they want to sell you what works for them, gives them low policy, like your premium's going to be okay, right? Because at the end of the day, they're trying to make a good sale.
So the biggest, what's one of the biggest catchphrases in the United States? It's how to save on car insurance. That's what all these commercials are, right? All these like Geico and Progressive, and that's what most working Americans want to do, is not to overpay, which is very valid. It is, but what I feel like a lot of insurance agents are trained. They're nice, they're hardworking, they're good people, but what they're trained to do is to say what the client wants to hear. Like, okay, this is how you pay less. But they don't not every insurance agent will go above and beyond to be forceful in explaining to the clients, look, yes, you will pay less, but by not getting uninsured motorists, by not getting those two-way coverages, right, like collision, comprehensive for car repair, you are making yourself vulnerable on the road. And that comes out as a problem later when they call me in a case.
What do you tell people like to get as like their like minimal insurance?
So what do I tell them about?
Like what the minimal coverage of insurance. What do you tell people, like, if you're going to get insurance, this is what you should get?
Oh, so absolutely. So do you need bodily injury to protect yourself if you're at fault?
Yeah, but how much? Like, are you saying 10-20, like 25? And people are like, what is 10-20, right? So how much would you say to somebody? Because you can get from $10,000 to $1 million or 5 million. Well, I don't even know what the highest is.
Right.
I think it's a 2 million. Well, I guess if you get
For personal policies, usually they're capped at like 500 or $1 million, depending on which company you're with. For personal policies, no commercials, you can go higher, you can get an umbrella, but without even focusing on that,
just like the base minimum of what somebody should get on an insurance policy, what would that be?
So again, that does depend on how much a person can afford. I'm not gonna lie, I don't sell insurance. I don't know the prices. It is an insurance broker question in a way, but my answer would be to get as high as possible. Whatever it is you can afford, get as much as possible. So bodily injury protects you if you hurt somebody. But by the same token, you can only get uninsured motorists as much as you have bodily injury. You're not allowed to, for example, buy $100,000 in coverage on uninsured motorists when your bodily injury is only $50,000.
It has to match.
It has to be. It could be less than bodily injury, but not more. So my advice is always buy as much bodily injury coverage as you can, and subsequently get uninsured motorist on as high of a level as you can afford. And for people who are, I guess at least a little bit middle class, or aspiring to be, or have some savings, or some, something that they don't want to, lose, of course, make the bodily injury, I guess, at least 100, 300, and likewise uninsured motorist as well. And if you could get more, please get more.
So I have 100, 300 on my policy. That is my because I'm in the industry and I always I'm like, I think that's a safe spot. It's actually really not much more expensive. I think it was like $4 or $5 more for me to get uninsured a month. It's kind of crazy, like what it comes out to a month or whatever it is. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I was just gonna match whatever because I'm in the industry and I've seen crazy stuff. But is people think I think it's a very big expense when it's really not. But in the long run, right? Like if you get hit and you don't have uninsured and the person who hit you doesn't have insurance, like you're really like like it's
Trouble.
yeah, it's a great way of putting it. I was gonna put SOL, but you're really in trouble. And I think it's like really important for people, and people probably don't understand really what 100-300 means. So can you explain what 100-300 means?
So the first digit, the first number, it means per person. So there's $100,000 in coverage per person injured, right? And 300, the second number, means there's 300 available for everybody injured in the same incident, in the same crash. So for example, if you're uninsured motorist, there's 100-300. So it's 100,000 per person, but let's say it's you and your spouse, your kids in the car. So 300,000 would be divided among everybody. Of course, divided, I mean, assuming that your attorney can get it for you, that it's a whole different discussion. That depends on the injuries and the treatment and the liability. But I'm saying the limit, the maximum limit, the second number gets divided by everybody who is injured in the same incident by the at fault driver, not the at fault driver. I would say everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a very like misunderstood whole thing. Because it's yeah, people just don't understand what 100-300 means. And I, for a long time, I don't really think I really, really understood it, right? Because it's just like the insurance companies are insurance sales reps.
They don't bother explaining. They don't
No.
bother educating. In fact, well, I don't like what Geico does. Again, Geico is one of the better, I would say, insurance companies to work with. They're very good to work with. But in their app, I always ask my clients, can you show me what's on your app? What coverage do you have? There is something, they call it stacked unstacked. Now, what is stacked unstacked? Stacked means that if you have more than one car in your household and you have uninsured motorist, it gets multiplied with the number of cars you have in the family. So for example, you have 2 cars, the 100-300 becomes 200,000 per person, 600,000 per everybody, which is a great thing to have. But I don't know why they don't call it uninsured motorist in the app. Like, let's say somebody doesn't have this education and doesn't know about insurance coverages, and Joe Schmo, right? Joe Schmo is looking his Geico app and like, why would I get something that says stacked in my app? I don't even know what that means. There's like a brief explanation, but it's like unappetizing. I mean, I would just skip it. I don't know if it was deliberately done like that or not. I'm not making any accusations, but it just goes to show that there isn't enough education out there to promote these important coverages to people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, stacked means nothing to me. Like, even though I'm in the industry still or whatever, it's just like if I saw it as a consumer, I'd probably be like, I don't think I need that. Like, I just need coverage of some sort,
Exactly.
And as long as they have insurance, it doesn't matter, especially with like sometimes the billboards are a little like,
Confusing.
yeah, because you think just because you have insurance or somebody has insurance or just because you can get an attorney means you can get a lawsuit and you can get money and you can have all those things. But that's really not
That's
the case.
absolutely not the case. And all these billboards, you see a smiling person in a suit saying, I got $1 million for Joe Schmo. I mean, did Joe Schmo tell you that Joe Schmo probably an unfortunate person with multiple fractures and injuries and like serious injuries, and it just so happened that there was a lot of insurance coverage, and I'm not doubting a lot of billboard lawyers are very good lawyers. I mean, at least one of my friends, has a billboard. But I'm just saying that some of these messages, without the proper context, people tend to misunderstand. And they think, collision, compensation. No, that doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's amazing all the misunderstandings that happen in this industry. I want to go back to a question for a second. You mentioned uninsured motorist, and I know we've been talking about that a little bit. Do you have a story or an example of a client of yours that had like pretty bad injuries or that did not have uninsured motorist, or what happened in that?
Well, all the time, or very frequently.
But can you think of a specific case that? Yeah.
Well, one case that definitely jumps to mind is a case of a motorcyclist who, you know, got an arm fracture. And for motorcycles, I would, you asked me how much to get for uninsured motors for motorcycles. I'd say get that $1 million. It's a very, very important. And for poor guy had none.
No insurance?
No insurance on the motorcycle. The person had insurance but no uninsured motorist, and then you completely rely on the tortfeasor, on the other car, the at fault vehicle, and then excuse me, what happens if that person has no bodily injury or very little bodily injury? Especially for motorcyclists, it's crucial, because a tap on the car that creates a fender bender in another vehicle could cause serious injuries in a motorcyclist.
Wait, so did the motorcyclist hit the car or the car hit the motorcyclist?
The car hit the motorcyclist, meaning that in my examples, the car is at fault. But then without the uninsured motorist, it's even more crucial. You're reminding me about these cases I had. Yeah. Without uninsured motorist, you are completely at the mercy of the other driver and the policy.
And so the motorcyclist did not have an uninsured motorist.
Correct.
So the person who hit him, did he have bodily injury?
Barely.
Like 10,000? Yeah. That does not cover surgery, really. I mean, so what happens in those situations where like the motorcyclist clearly has an injury, he has a broken elbow, he's going to need, surgery, or he needs care, which he's going to get regardless, because in the United States, we just believe in that, like that's what we, like make sure we get somebody care. We're not going to just leave somebody on the streets. But so they go to the hospital, he's stuck with this bill. The bill is, it could be crazy amount of money. Let's say $50,000, right? He's stuck with this. He doesn't have insurance. Like let's say he doesn't. I'm just going to use this as an example. I don't know if your client did or not, but if he doesn't have health insurance, who's stuck with the bill? How does this work out?
So that's a brilliant question. I believe that it's the injury lawyer's responsibility, and not only to try and get the client compensated, but also to spend the time and energy to work on negotiating a bill and lien reduction after the case. So in a case like that, I would have to call the hospital and be on the phone with them and write to them for weeks and months if necessary, and beg them and negotiate to reduce the bill as much as possible, just so that the client at least walks away with some compensation, with some money left from the smaller settlement. The settlement is smaller than is justified by the injuries. But it's something that I do. I have to, it's also something that people don't know. A job of a lawyer, of an injury lawyer, is not just to get you compensation, but to also help you deal with these bills after the settlement. And I take this responsibility very seriously.
So it is their job. So if an attorney decides to not help out anymore, they got the money for the client and they want to walk away and just sign off on everything, can they sign everything over to the client and say, you deal with it?
I'm not an ethics attorney. I can really quote, I believe that's not appropriate. I would never do that. I'm not sure if technically there is a way out. Maybe some firms do that. I'm not, passing any judgment.
No, but that's not you want to make sure your client is completely taken care of.
I always say the time, even in cases where I find out there is no bodily injury, with that drop letter that we just spoke about, that painful letter that is very standard, especially in Florida. Even with these zero body injury clients, if I know that there's an issue with the hospital or insurance, I stay on that phone. I keep that case open for as long as needed to at least help them, negotiate those bills down, because that's the least I could do, because that's the people that I work with, injured people. And I can't just, abandon them because financially the compensation part didn't work out.
Yeah, it's hard to see somebody with no So wait, let's go back. So okay, so he has no health insurance, which I know you said you'd help reduce his bills, but and the person that hit him has no BI, right? The person hit him would need BI to have some sort of case, like for Joe Schmo to sue Sally Sue. I don't know. She would have to have some sort of BI.
Yes,
for them.
But
Yeah, for that to happen. And I mean, it's amazing how quickly that money goes, especially in healthcare, right? It's expensive to do things. It's expensive for surgery, anesthesia. Like, I mean, all the doctors, the team, the surgical center that needs to come into play. Yeah.
for sure.
And so your job as an attorney, you are building up a case like Sally Sue, I think I called her. I don't even know what I called her, hit Joe Schmo, right? And you have to come up with, figure out, like, was she texting and driving? Did she not see him, right?
Yes.
What you have to build a case to tell the insurance company why they owe X amount of money, not just because of the injuries.
Of course, liability is extremely important. You always have to prove fault. That's another reason I think we discussed before, that people have a complete, even officers. Oh my gosh, all the time right here. Our officer comes to the scene. I see on the body cam, an officer later, saying, "Oh, this is a no-fault state. I'm just doing you a favor, but I don't even have to determine, who's liable, who's at fault." And it's completely misunderstood. All no-fault means is that there's certain benefit. By Florida law, you have PIP insurance. After $10,000, that pays 80% of reasonable medical expenses and some other expenses, that regardless of your fault, you could be the most at fault person, you're hurt after the crash, you lost some work money, you can qualify for PIP. That has nothing to do with your attorney's ability to prove your case in court to get you compensated. That is 100% dependent on your lawyer's ability to prove that you weren't at fault. In fact, in Florida, you cannot be more than 50% at fault, otherwise you recover nothing. In Georgia, you can be more than 49% at fault. So that is, fault is very important.
Yeah. And proving that, like, even if the person pulled out in front of somebody else and didn't see the person, right? You have to prove were they, going through a red light? Were they not going through a red light? It's
That's a fun part. That's a difficult part that oftentimes relies on the presence of dash cameras. I always recommend to clients and friends and everybody, please buy that dash cam. Go to Amazon, buy a dash cam for the front of the car and the back of the car. Was it $20? $30? Just buy that dash cam. And if you're someone who doesn't know how to install it, I'm not a big handyman, wires and that. Just ask a neighbor, ask a friend, ask somebody to help you, but you need that dash cam. Ariella,
I think you like little. I know. I don't.
Do you have one?
I do not have a dash cam.
Please get a dash cam.
But I know a lot of people who, say it's amazing. It's really, really needed. All right, I want to get into a couple fun questions just to change it for a second. But when you travel, do you like the window seat or the aisle seat on an airplane?
I give the window seats to my kids.
Oh, that's so nice.
So I don't even know my preference anymore.
It's all for the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess I have always liked, as a kid at heart, I always liked window seats.
You like looking out the window and seeing everything. It doesn't scare you on an airplane? You like to see the height? You're fine with heights?
I'm fine with heights, yeah. It's out of my control. I mean, I wish I had like superpowers. I could fly, but I can't. So just have to enjoy the moment.
It's true. It is true. I'm an aisle seat girl. I like the aisle seat. I like to be able to get up, go to the bathroom, walk around if I need to walk for a second, like stretch my legs. Yeah, that is my preference.
So we have 3 kids. So me and my wife and 3, that's 5. So 6 seats. There's 6 seats. So next time you come with us, you'll be in line.
There you go. Okay. So, and what's a small win recently that made you proud? What is a small win that happened recently?
Well, I don't really consider any win to be small. I think every win is big. But I did have a case recently where an immigrant, the lady who didn't speak any English, got hit by a car, and the other driver, claimed to the officers that there was no impact, that the person on the scooter just fell, and no one spoke her language. And then even there was one Russian-speaking officer that came later, but he was completely the non-Russian speaking officer sort of took over the whole show and believed the driver was spoke the same language as the officer, and then didn't even want to make a police report because every word of the driver was believed. And then I got involved when I looked at the body cams. I saw what happened. I saw that that officer wasn't listening, and the poor lady was in pain on the stretcher trying to use one of those AI apps that converts speech into text to communicate, and no one was listening to her version of events and how it actually happened and how that other driver's story wasn't consistent. And I was able to persuade the police department to create that report. I got in touch with the superiors, which rarely happens because they don't have to listen to me. And then, I got in touch with the insurance company, and I was able to get that client compensated. It wasn't a big settlement because of, the whole body injury uninsured motorist drama that we just discussed. But I got her something, and she was very happy. And I believe justice was served, so that's something that sticks out.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You really go above and beyond for your client.
I try. Like I said, they're on my mind the whole day.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a win. That is a great win. And I love what you said though about you don't like every win is not small. It's a big, even though they might seem small, but it's big. And I do agree with you on that.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. It's an amazing way to live. It says a lot about who you are. Okay. So this is just a fine question, but we're gonna continue on. Well, let's go with this one. Okay. If you woke up as a kitchen appliance, what would you be? Is that fun? I like that question.
Kitchen appliance.
Do you cook?
I do cook. I not so much anymore because of time constraints, but when we just got married, my wife taught me how to cook. I didn't know how to do anything because I don't want to stereotype Russian speaking Eastern European, Ukrainian, or whatever culture. But I guess in my family from Ukraine, where we're from, my mom always thought that the man doesn't necessarily have to cook, that the wife would do everything. And then when we got married, my wife brought a cookbook in front of me, just slammed it on the table, said, "This, you read it. It's easy.
Yes, that's amazing.
It's easy, and it has pictures." And she was very busy. She had very long hours when I lived in New York, and I had to do it. I did it. I opened up the book and I learned some recipes, and it's fun. It's fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that you actually did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You just follow ingredients like a spell book in Harry Potter.
Yeah. I like the Harry Potter.
So you just got to make sure that everything comes out right.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing though. I love that she just was like, read it and do it.
Yeah.
And you did.
I did.
I mean, this is a good marriage, by the way. Like that you guys, she's like asking for help. She's like, I need help on this. And you did it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I'm a big believer in, following your wife's wishes. And then I particularly like that because I am who I am. That's simple. And I'm a big believer in, just trying to not disappoint her. And so going back to the kitchen appliance.
So what would you be?
Well, would I be? I would probably be a fridge because I think it's nice to keep your food, all fresh.
Well, you never go starving.
Right.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, that kind of says that you're a foodie, right? Like,
Well, you're not gonna tell it by looking at me because I'm not particularly overweight. But I do love food. I do love. I've actually learned to like moderate when my wife and I first met. I would like order some gigantic meal in the restaurants, and I remember her parents like looking at me like, "What is up with this skinny guy? He's like eating like a whole chicken." And but I do like food. I do.
do you have a go-to meal that you like, or a recipe, or like? I mean, some people say like they love macaroni and cheese or something like that's like their comfort food.
So macaroni and cheese is good, but I don't like that these stereotypically unhealthy carbs. I'd go more with like Moroccan salmon, maybe. Something
Okay.
like that.
Very
Like
nice.
Mediterranean food style.
Mediterranean food is so good. So good. Okay, so we're gonna go back to work for a second.
Okay.
And then now we're like we're jumping personal back to work, just kind of having fun with this because I think this is good. And actually, like it's really interesting how it brings up other things for you, which I'm enjoying how you're bringing work into it, life, all these different things. What part of your work do people outside your field totally misunderstand?
Well, people don't understand how there's an interplay between an injury, how a claim works versus going to court. Some people think that right away a lawsuit is filed. Some people don't understand how court comes in. In personal injury, I feel like I have to explain all. I'm very happy to file suit, but it's sort of like last resort because suing is expensive, paying for court fees is expensive, everything is expensive. So I will absolutely sue, but only if it's needed. If the insurance company is being so resistant, is offering so little money that it's disgusting, and a client and I talk about it, and suing was the right thing to do, then yes, go ahead and sue. Absolutely.
But do you think people outside the industry think like attorneys are um like how do I say this politely?
It's okay. Go ahead. I'm not going to be offended.
Yeah, no, but they feel like attorneys are kind of like in for it for themselves, kind of greedy. I mean, like there's a lot of and everybody feels like they're sue happy. And so like I think looking outside on this industry, right? People could say like I think you're misunderstood because like yes, there is money in this, right? You're getting compensated, but you're also doing things right. And I think a lot of the misunderstanding comes from like people think attorneys are just in it really more for themselves, I think. Right?
I hate that. I don't like this stereotype. And I think as we as lawyers need to do better. We need to establish trust with our clients. We need to be open with our clients. Like if sometimes I'm overwhelmed with work and I don't timely notify a client about something like say sometimes like a few days past a week, I already feel bad. And there has been times like that where I could be overwhelmed by. It's interesting you mentioned court. I mean, court actually takes up time. So it's good if lawyers are motivated to go to court, but it's better to get the client more money. But I believe that everything a lawyer does should be client focused.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that like your oath? It's like you're
Yes.
supposed to protect your client. You do anything in your
Absolutely.
power to protect your client, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
As an attorney, that's an important oath that you guys take. Yeah, no. So sorry. So go back to the misunderstanding. So I think it's you kind of have to like debunk that, right? As an attorney.
I always ask my clients, if something is unclear, please ask me. Ask me 1,000 times. Write a list of questions for me to answer. I don't want there to be any mysteries or something misunderstood, because I will be in your face, up front with you. I'm not the type to hide some fact or sugarcoat anything. I'll tell you the way it is, even if it's unpleasant. For example, a conversation about insurances. I have people calling me with something that sounds like a good case. A person that injured, they describe their injuries, they describe how the injury happened. I can see liability, I can see fault of the third party, and in what happened, I'm like, okay, that's something that's a case that I could help you with. And then they start asking me, okay, so what can we get out of this? And I don't know. I mean, it all depends on the injuries, treatment, my ability to prove fault, to prove liability, depends on what the percentage is. Are we going to prove it 100%? We need to, dive in, investigate, look at the police report if it was a slip or trip and fall, look at the circumstances, the photos, the videos. Only then, you go seek your treatment because you're injured, not because you came to me. Every injury case has to be about treatment first, and then if you're hurt and you need help, you need to do it independently of a lawyer. The fact that there is the system in the United States allows people to seek legal compensation is a beautiful thing. By far, not every jurisdiction has that. A contingent fee where you don't pay anything till you win. That's beautiful. But if you're hurt because you're hurt, and you need medical attention regardless. And if you happen to have an attorney while you're treating, that's beautiful. But I'll tell the people, don't ask me stupid questions like, oh, so what are we getting out of this? So what's up in the doctor's office? What am I gonna tell them? I'm like, no. That's not how it works. You tell the truth. You go tell you something. If you don't have symptoms, don't call me. If you are 100% fine, if you're just calling a lawyer because of a billboard, nope, I'm not going to take that case.
You're not the guy.
Absolutely not.
You want to really help people that are truly injured and that really need care.
Of course. And that applies, by the way, to pain. Truly injured doesn't mean that something's broken. You have a broken bone, you need a so those are very, very severe injury. You could have nonstop neck and back pain. That is 100% real, but that is 100% the case. But it must be honest. It must be true. And I will tell you that what we win is not something that we find out much, much later. What we could potentially, rely upon. Well, what could be that? It's not like I will never tell a client hypothetical numbers. It's my job to explain how medical care and injuries relate to the concept of damages. How much in every injury is valued differently. Of course, I'll explain that. Of course, we'll go through everything. Of course, we'll go through like MRI findings and we'll discuss all of it. But I'm not the guy to promise you, anything. I'm the guy to work hard and try to get you as much as possible based on the facts that we have in front of us. That's how I work.
Yeah. No, that's so important to and you really, there's this book, I can't remember the name of it, but there's 3 different types of people. Like there's upholders, there's people that, go with the flow or whatever. I'll find it for next time. But attorneys are usually upholders. Like they have to uphold the law. They have to uphold if something's right or wrong. It's like, I've noticed that with more of attorneys because it's like literally like in their bones. They can't see like if something's wrong or not ethically correct, they can't stand by it. It's really, really uncomfortable.
Unfortunately, there are some lawyers out there who will just promise, who will do anything to just sign up a client. And there are clients out there who would rather hear the fairy tale stories than to understand how things really work. And I have lost potential clients. It happens from time to time where there's a case I'm interested in, and the guy gets upset with me and says, "What's your deal? You're not promising me anything. You're not no guarantees in this thing." I'm like, yeah, that's right. There are no guarantees in this thing, and I'm not promising you anything. Absolutely not. So what is this for? What are we getting out of this? I don't know. We'll have to see. And then I'm sure that some of those people went to other attorneys who promised them things, who are, very, I'm very financially motivated, but they're like financially motivated, right? And there are people who would rather hear these, I guess that's part of human nature is to like believe in promises, and
We all want to believe in
we
promise.
all want to believe in promises, and that's how some people work. That they don't want to listen to how things are. But I'm okay with that because I would rather make less money than somehow mislead clients. 100%.
You don't want to underpromise and overdeliver. I mean, overpromise and underdeliver.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you like to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yes.
Okay, one more question or so. But what motivates you more? Freedom, money, impact, or recognition?
That's a hard one. Or freedom.
Money, impact, or recognition? I think two of those are going to be harder for you than the other two because knowing you, like, I think.
What do you mean by freedom? Can we go into every?
Yeah, let's go into it. Okay, freedom, I guess, like being able to do whatever you want whenever you want, because that's how I interpret it. Money, like making a lot of money, which couldn't be freedom or cannot be freedom, right? Impact, making an impact in the world or in a community. And then recognition, being recognized for some things in the community.
Well, I think it's healthy.
They're very similar. They're all similar, but I think if that's how I had to define them.
I think it's healthy for a person to aspire for all four, at least in some capacity, not to obsess over, like money obsession is a bad thing, right? But you need to be at least somewhat motivated for yourself, for your family, because, life ain't cheap. It's absolutely normal to want to be financially stable. America has many, many beautiful things. It's such a blessing that, my family and I immigrated from Ukraine here, as refugees. But you have to work here, to make money, especially you grow up and have a family. It's very, very important. So that's definitely important. Now, the most, I would say, impact would be, I don't know how much impact I have made yet. I would love to one day make positive impact. I just don't know. I mean, I'm just like in the office all day, so I don't know.
I think I want to interrupt on that one for a second. Impact, I think you do make an impact with each of your clients. Like,
I hope so.
Yeah, and that's hopefully the ripple effect, right? Like you want to impact each of them, so then can move into more positive direction, have a really positive result with an attorney, right? So they think favorably. You're making an impact and changing the way that they view attorneys too a little bit, or whatever it may be. Or
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I think you're making an impact. But I'm sorry, continue on with and then recognition.
Right, recognition. I mean, I think it's just nice. It's just nice to be not the most important out there, but it's nice because every person, it's fine. I would feel good if I were to be recognized, because it reminds you that what you do. I guess that same impact that you just spoke about. It reminds you. It motivates a person to do more of that. And freedom. Freedom is a good thing. Right? Too much freedom. I don't know. It's just sometimes I feel it could disorient a person. I'm a believer in some kind of structure. It has to be a balance between freedom and structure.
It's a very good point. I like that. No, I mean, I think you're right. I think people think of freedom as like everybody wants freedom, but you're right. Structure is so important as humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need it. Like we're more productive when we have structure in our lives. We feel more purposeful.
That is true.
Which makes us less depressed, right? Because the opposite of depression is purpose.
Exactly.
And so that's a really good point. Like if you have everything, say you're retired all the time, right? Are you going to make your day productive? Or are you going to just sit there and just, I don't know, willy-nilly through your day, right? And then you can feel depressed. I mean, there's some people that, like, I'm just going to say, I can't speak on this at all, but like in shows or whatever, you see the trust fund babies, right? Like, and they're like, I don't have to work. I can just do whatever I want. But those are the people that feel like less purposeful in this world. They don't feel like they're contributing. They have the money, they have the freedom to go do whatever they want to do. But then they also feel depressed a little bit because everybody wants to feel purpose.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a trust fund baby. I can't speak.
No, I
to
can't
that
speak on it either, but I'm just
personal experience.
shows, like TV shows, or
Exactly.
movies or things like that from what you see in TV shows or movies. That's what I'm speaking about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of, interesting to see that with people. It's, it's kind of thinking about that, the freedom question that you just answered, the freedom. I know that most people really want freedom, but yet we really need structure.
Yeah, I guess you feel this more in like free democratic societies in the United States. Has sometimes like the modern culture, anyone that does whatever they want, and then at some point if people kind of understand it maybe in like other societies where there's too much structure, people want a little more freedom. So I'm a believer in balance.
Yeah. No, it is so true. Okay, last question now, finally. I was going to say that was the last question, but this is our last one. What is one app you use every single day?
One app.
Just one app. I know we use a lot of apps every single day. I mean, it's a hard thing.
Well, I do have an.
Do you have a favorite app?
I have an Instagram page, so
okay. So you're on that every day.
Nowadays, once a day at least, I do click. I mean, have I had any more like viewers or likes?
Is that your favorite app you use? Do you have a favorite app?
A favorite app? I don't even know if nowadays. I mean, back in the day when I had more time, there's this app called IGN that was like game and movie reviews. Okay. I used to be on that every day back in the day, Yeah. That would go into like comic books, Marvel movies, video games of all sorts, sci-fi and all that. But nowadays I barely have time to glance at that. So I would say maybe the professional Instagram pages is what I look at.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're using every day. Yeah, to grow your business. Everybody's using Instagram. Well, social media, I should say, because Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the things, X, everything. Everybody's using all days to grow their pages.
So no favorite app per se because I don't know how much time I have to, but
that's an interesting that you did have favorite.
Yeah, back in my more carefree days.
Before all the kids and all the work and the starting your own firm and everything.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really good. This is really fun, Alex. Thank you for sharing more about you.
You can ask more if you want.
No, it's a good stopping point.
Okay. Thank you, Ariel.
But this is really good. I'm glad people got to know you a little bit better. Hear you really like your side of the law a little bit also, which is important. But not your side of the law, but how you understand the law, how you use the law to help your clients. But anyways, I am excited for next time. We're going to look at some other things. But before we go, where can everybody find you and connect with you?
Well, because
it's important, right?
Yeah.
Because people have heard really good information here and they want to now reach out to you or talk to you. And how can they do that?
So ALEX as law firm, Alex's law firm is my Instagram tag. And yourlawyeralex.com is my website. So that's I guess pretty much it.
Yeah, you always gotta it's like you're always telling people, right?
Right.
And have your own business. You're constantly, people may hear things a million times. That's why a lot of people have billboards and stuff, because you have to hear something so many times before it actually sticks.
Right.
There's a statistic, and I think it's 20 times at least before something will really stick in your brain. But I'll find it for next time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.